Have you ever noticed that some men have this mysterious calm about them? You can't quite figure them out. They don't overshare. They don't overreact, and somehow, their silence says more than other people's words. Let me ask you this. Have you ever met a man who didn't chase attention, yet somehow everyone was drawn to him? There's something about the way he moves, quiet confidence, controlled emotions, and a sense of direction that doesn't need validation. That's not arrogance, that's value, the mark of a man who knows himself. And today, I want to reveal why high-value men hide these 8 things from women. Not because they're cold or manipulative, but because they understand that real power lies in restraint. But before we dive in, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button and watch this video till the end. Because if you truly understand what I'm about to share, it can completely transform your love life, your confidence and your peace as a man. 1. Their next move. Have you ever fallen in love and started telling her everything? Your dreams, your plans, your next steps, almost like you couldn't wait to let her see every part of your world. You probably remember that feeling, right? You wanted her to know how serious you were. You wanted her to see that you weren't just some ordinary guy, that you had vision, ambition, purpose. But here's the thing, maybe she didn't react the way you expected. Maybe she smiled politely, but something in her energy changed. She didn't seem as fascinated anymore. You started wondering, what did I do wrong? I was being honest, wasn't I? Let me tell you what really happened. When you reveal your next move too soon, especially to someone you're emotionally drawn to, you take away your mystery. You remove that quiet spark that makes a woman curious about you. Because whether we admit it or not, curiosity is the root of attraction. Once people think they've figured you out, their excitement fades. Now imagine this. There's a man named Armin. He met a woman who caught his attention instantly. The kind of woman who makes you forget the room you're in. She asked him about his goals, his vision, his dreams. But Armin didn't tell her everything. He smiled and said, "I'm working on something I'm proud of. But I prefer to show results instead of promises." And then he changed the subject, not to avoid her, but to let curiosity breathe. You see, that silence didn't make her lose interest. It pulled her closer. She wanted to know more. What was he working on? What was he building? Why was he so calm about it? That's the essence of masculine energy, quiet direction. A man who moves with purpose doesn't need to shout about it. You don't tell her your next move because you're hiding something. You keep it to yourself because you respect your mission. You understand that goals grow best in silence. Think about your own life. How many times have you told someone your dream and they either doubted you or drained your motivation with their words? That's why high-value men stay quiet. They protect their vision like a seed, fragile in the beginning, powerful once it blooms. When a woman sees that you move in silence, that you don't need validation, she feels something deeper. She feels safe around you. She feels your confidence, not in your words, but in your calm. Because mystery isn't about being secretive, it's about being centered. A man who doesn't need to explain himself becomes the kind of man every woman remembers. So next time you're tempted to tell her your next big move, pause. Let your silence create curiosity. Let your results reveal your story. Because the moment you learn to speak less and move more, that's when you step into your true power. 2. Their deepest fears. Have you ever laid next to someone you love, staring at the ceiling, and thought, what if she leaves? What if I'm not enough? You didn't say it out loud, of course. You just smiled, held her close, and hoped she couldn't hear the war inside your chest. Every man knows that feeling, the quiet battle between strength and fear. We're told to be tough, to be calm, to act like nothing gets to us. But deep down, every man has fears. Fear of failure, fear of being forgotten, fear of giving his all and still not being chosen. And here's the truth most men never say. The higher your value rises, the deeper your fears become. Because now you've built something. You've worked on yourself. You've finally got peace, discipline, direction, and suddenly you're terrified of losing it all. But here's the difference between an ordinary man and a high-value man. An ordinary man runs from his fears, or worse, he hands them to a woman, hoping she'll fix them. He says things like, "I don't feel good enough. I'm scared of losing you. I'm afraid I'm not doing enough." He doesn't realize those words, though honest, place emotional weight on her shoulders. They turn attraction into anxiety. But a high-value man, he feels the same fears, but he doesn't feed them with words. He faces them in silence. He wrestles with them when no one's watching. He takes those fears into the gym, into his craft, into his meditation. He turns fear into focus. Let me tell you a story. There was a man named Rehan, deeply in love, but terrified of losing the woman he adored. Every time she didn't text back, his heart raced. Every time she pulled away, he questioned his worth. But one day, he realized something powerful. The fear wasn't about her. It was about him. It was his own mind whispering that he wasn't enough. So instead of confessing that fear to her, he faced it himself. He worked on his purpose, his habits, his mindset, until the fear didn't control him anymore. And guess what happened? The moment he stopped showing fear, her respect grew. Because women don't fall in love with perfection. They fall in love with emotional control. When you can feel deeply but still stay composed, you show her something rare. A man who leads his emotions instead of being led by them. You don't have to pretend you don't feel. Just learn to handle what you feel privately first. Because when you master your fears in silence, the world and women will feel your calm. And that calmness, my friend, is what separates a man who's chasing peace from a man who's living in it. So next time fear whispers in your mind, don't hand it to someone else. Face it, transform it, and let your calm become your quiet strength. 3. Their past pain. Have you ever been in love so deeply that when it ended, it didn't just break your heart, it broke you? You know that kind of pain. The one that makes you sit in silence, scrolling through old messages, wondering where things went wrong. You tell yourself you've moved on, but a song, a scent, or a random memory hits you and suddenly it all comes rushing back. We've all been there. There was a time you gave your best, your attention, your time, your loyalty, and all you got in return was silence, confusion, or betrayal. That's the kind of pain that changes a man. And you know what most men do after that? They either shut down completely, or they spend years trying to prove they're over it. They date quickly. They talk loudly about how they've leveled up. They pretend the past doesn't matter. But deep down, it still does. Here's the truth. High-value men feel that pain too. They just handle it differently. They don't run from it. They sit with it. They let it break them. Just enough to rebuild wiser, not colder. Because pain, when faced properly, becomes power. Let me tell you about a man named Adil. He loved a woman who made him believe he finally found peace. She was his best friend, his muse, his everything. But one day she left. No closure, no reason, just silence. For months he couldn't sleep. He replayed every conversation in his mind, wondering what he could have done differently. Until one night, sitting alone in his car, he had a realization. He wasn't crying because she left. He was crying because he lost himself while loving her. He realized that the pain he felt wasn't punishment, it was instruction. So he stopped chasing explanations. He stopped blaming her. He stopped looking back. Instead, he made peace with it. He accepted that not everyone who touches your heart is meant to stay. Some people are sent to awaken the parts of you that you forgot existed. Adil started journaling, hitting the gym, focusing on his goals. Not to distract himself, but to rebuild himself. And something beautiful happened. That pain, which once made him weak, became his quiet confidence. It gave his words depth. It gave his eyes calmness. It gave his presence gravity. Because when a man has healed his past pain, he doesn't need to prove anything anymore. He doesn't speak from wounds. He speaks from wisdom. So, my friend, if you're still carrying pain from your past, remember this. You don't need to tell everyone your story. You just need to grow from it. A high-value man doesn't erase his past. He learns from it. He transforms heartbreak into humility, mistakes into meaning, and pain into peace. And that's what makes him magnetic. not because he's perfect, but because he's whole again. So ask yourself, what if your pain wasn't a curse but a calling, a chance to rise stronger, quieter, and wiser than ever before? For their financial details. Have you ever been in a relationship where money somehow became the quiet killer? Where every dinner bill, every gift, every little expense started to mean something, not just financially, but emotionally? Maybe you felt that moment when a woman subtly tested how much you could provide, or when you caught yourself overspending just to impress her. It's a silent game many men play, often without realizing they've already lost. Here's the truth. High-value men never reveal their financial details easily, not because they're stingy, but because they understand something deeper. Money is energy. It's power. It's direction. And when given to the wrong person, it doesn't just empty your wallet. It drains your soul. Let's go back to a story. There was a man named Rayan, hard-working, disciplined, humble. He built everything from scratch, his business, his savings, his future. When he met a woman named Aisha, he was smitten. She was beautiful, smart, full of energy. Everything he thought he'd been waiting for. In the beginning, he wanted to give her everything. Expensive dinners, surprise gifts, weekend trips. He told himself it was love. But slowly the energy changed. She started expecting, not appreciating. She asked more while giving less. And when Rayan finally stopped spoiling her, she pulled away. That's when he realized he hadn't been loved. He had been funding an illusion, and it hurt. Because like many good men, he wasn't buying love. He was buying peace. He thought, if I give more, she'll stay. If I provide, she'll see my worth. But high-value men eventually learn your worth isn't in your wallet, it's in your wisdom. So they become more private. They don't talk about how much they make, what they own, or what they plan to buy. They stay low-key, not to hide, but to protect. Because real men understand. When a woman loves you for who you are, not what you have, she becomes your peace. When she loves you for what you have, she becomes your problem. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." And that's what high-value men do. They don't flex their lifestyle. They embody it quietly. Rayan changed. He stopped trying to impress. He started testing, not with words, but with silence. Would she stay if there was no dinner date, no gifts, no trips? Would she still call, still care, still support his mission? And when she didn't, he smiled, not out of bitterness, but relief. Because rejection, when seen clearly, is just redirection. High-value men hide their financial details because they know love tested by luxury isn't love. It's convenience. And the only woman worth trusting is the one who values the man behind the money. So if you're listening to this, remember, you don't owe anyone proof of your success. You don't have to announce your income, your savings, or your investments. Let your character be your currency. Let your peace be your profit. Because the moment you stop trying to buy love, you start to attract loyalty. 5. Their vulnerabilities. Have you ever opened up to someone, really opened up, only to regret it later? You shared your fears, your insecurities, your past mistakes, thinking you were building emotional closeness. But later, when things fell apart, those same things you confessed were used against you. That's the kind of pain that teaches a man to guard his soul. See, high-value men don't hide their emotions because they're cold. They hide them because they've learned vulnerability must be earned, not given. There's a difference between being open and being exposed. And once you've been exposed in the wrong hands, you start to value silence more than sympathy. Let me tell you a story. There was a man named Zain, kind-hearted, honest, a deep thinker. When he fell in love, he didn't hold back. He told her everything, his dreams, his failures, his fears. He thought his honesty would build trust. Instead, it built leverage for her, not him. Whenever they argued, she'd remind him of the things he'd once said in vulnerability. Maybe you're just not confident enough. Didn't you say you were scared of losing me? Those words cut deeper than any sword, because they weren't random insults. They were truths he had gifted her in trust. That's when he learned the Stoic lesson every man must eventually understand. Not everyone deserves to know your soul. High-value men don't suppress their emotions. They filter them. They understand that vulnerability is powerful, but only when shared with the right woman. A woman who listens to understand, not to collect information. A woman who holds your pain like it's hers, not as ammunition. A woman who sees the boy behind the man and still respects the man he's become. Until such a woman appears, he stays silent. He smiles but doesn't explain. He listens but reveals little. He lives but keeps his heart behind an invisible wall, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Because he knows vulnerability, once misplaced, can destroy peace. And peace is the most expensive thing a man owns. Zayn eventually met someone new. This time he took his time. He didn't rush to share his soul. He watched how she handled his silence before he gave her his story. And when she proved she could sit with his quiet without demanding explanations, that's when he opened up again, slowly, genuinely, authentically. Because vulnerability is not weakness. It's strength, but it must be protected until it's earned. So, my friend, if you've ever been called emotionally unavailable, don't let that guilt weigh you down. You're not cold, you're careful. You're not distant, you're discerning. You've learned that love isn't about how fast you open up. It's about who you open up to. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." That means protect your inner world. Don't let just anyone paint on your heart. Because when you finally meet the one who deserves your vulnerability, you'll know. She won't rush it, she'll earn it. And when she does, your silence will finally feel safe again. 6. Their long-term strategy. Have you ever been in a relationship where you had dreams, but she just couldn't see the vision? Maybe she wanted quick comfort, while you were chasing long-term greatness. Maybe she wanted now, but you were building forever. If you've ever felt that tension, you already know this truth. A high-value man never reveals his long-term strategy too early. He moves in silence. He builds without broadcasting. He plans without posting. Because he understands something most people never grasp. Not everyone deserves to know where you're going until you've already arrived. Let me take you into a story. There was a man named Hamza, quiet, focused, purpose-driven. He wasn't rich, but he had a vision so strong that it made people doubt him. And that's what fueled him even more. When he met a woman named Sarah, she was drawn to his calm confidence. But over time, she became restless. "Why do you work so late?" she'd ask. "Why can't you just relax? Why can't we live a little?" Hamza would smile softly and say, "Because I'm not building for today. I'm building for the future." But she didn't understand. She thought he was cold, emotionally distant, when in reality, he was protecting something sacred, his purpose. One night, after yet another argument about his priorities, she said, "I just don't see where this is going." And that was the moment he realized she wasn't meant to walk the entire path with him. She was only meant to teach him how to walk it alone. Months passed. Hamza kept grinding, quietly, consistently, relentlessly, and slowly, everything he'd been planning started taking form. His business grew. His mindset evolved. His peace deepened. But he didn't announce it. He didn't boast. Because high-value men don't seek applause. They seek alignment. They know that when you talk too much about your plans, people project their fears onto them. They doubt you. They question you. They subtly plant seeds of insecurity. And that's why Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius, believed in self-containment. He once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, and that includes the thoughts you protect from others." Hamza learned that keeping his long-term strategy hidden wasn't secrecy. It was self-respect. He realized that not everyone has the capacity to believe in what hasn't yet been built. So he stopped explaining. And that's what high-value men do. They move quietly, not because they're mysterious, but because they're mission-focused. They understand that women might admire your ambition, but only a rare woman will support your solitude while you build it. So if you're that man working late, dreaming big, and keeping your moves to yourself, don't feel guilty. You're not being distant, you're being disciplined. Because your purpose is sacred and your plans are the map to your peace. When a woman is meant for you, she'll never need to know every detail of your dream. She'll just believe in your direction. So protect your vision until it becomes visible. Protect your path until it becomes powerful. Because once you've built your empire, you won't need to tell anyone your strategy. Your results will speak the language your silence always knew. 7. Their emotional attachment. Have you ever loved someone so much that even after they were gone, you still felt them? In your songs, in your dreams, in the spaces they used to stand? That's emotional attachment. It's not just love, it's the soul's memory of connection. And here's the truth that most men learn too late. A high-value man never gives emotional attachment too soon. He understands that emotional energy is his most powerful currency. It fuels his focus, his creativity, his peace. So he gives it slowly, and only to those who've earned it through consistency, not chemistry. Let me tell you a story. There was a man named Usman. He met a woman who made him feel alive, the kind of woman who texts you first, laughs at your jokes, and makes you feel seen again. After years of loneliness, he thought, finally, someone who gets me. Days turned into weeks, and soon she was all he thought about. Her voice became his morning motivation. Her absence became his anxiety. But then, just as quickly as she appeared, she started pulling away. Less texting, more excuses, a colder tone. And Usman felt that familiar ache, the one that whispers, "What did I do wrong?" That's when he remembered what his mentor once told him. Never hand over your emotional peace before someone has earned the right to hold it. See, high-value men aren't afraid of love. They're afraid of losing themselves in it. Because when you attach too soon, you lose sight of your own center. You start reacting instead of leading. You start chasing instead of choosing. Usman realized that he wasn't addicted to her. He was addicted to the feeling she gave him. And that's a dangerous addiction. Because when that source disappears, you feel empty again. So he pulled back, not to play games, but to regain control. He learned to redirect that emotional energy back into his mission, his health, his work, his purpose. He started journaling every time he missed her, not texting. He hit the gym when his mind started replaying her words. He rebuilt his center. Weeks later, something magical happened. The same woman who drifted away came back, curious. "What happened to you? You feel different." And she was right. He was different. Because a man who has control over his emotional attachment becomes rare, untouchable. He no longer needs connection to feel complete. He chooses connection to share his completeness. That's what makes high-value men so magnetic. Their love is not desperate, it's deliberate. Their presence doesn't say, "Please love me." It says, "I already love myself. Join me or leave me." Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That's exactly what emotional control is. When you stop giving your emotional energy away too soon, you start to master your inner world. You stop chasing temporary attention and start attracting genuine admiration. So, if you're listening right now, remember this. Love deeply but never desperately. Care honestly but never carelessly. And most importantly, stay grounded in yourself, even when your heart is tempted to drift. Because the man who masters his emotions doesn't lose women. He simply loses the fear of being alone. 8. Their true peace. When was the last time you felt completely at peace? No noise in your mind. No overthinking, no what-ifs. Just you, breathing, unbothered by who stayed, who left, or who didn't understand you. If that feeling feels rare, it's because it is. Most people chase love, money, or validation, but the rarest men, the truly high-value men, they chase peace, because peace is the ultimate power. It's not found in revenge, not in proving your worth, not in attention or validation. It's found in letting go. Let me take you into a story. There was a man named Amir. For years he was always chasing something, a dream, a woman, a sense of meaning. Every time he achieved one goal, another appeared. Every time he found someone, he feared losing them. He didn't realize he was addicted to movement, not progress. He thought staying busy meant he was doing well, but deep down he was running from himself. Then one day life forced him to stop. His business hit a rough patch, his relationship ended, and he found himself alone in silence. No noise, no plans, no distractions. At first it terrified him, but in that stillness, something shifted. He started noticing the little things, the sound of the wind, the rhythm of his breath, the calm in solitude. He realized peace isn't the absence of problems, it's the mastery of presence. That's what high-value men understand. They hide their true peace not because they're secretive, but because peace is sacred. They don't allow everyone to disturb their energy. They don't let every argument pull them in. They don't respond to every insult or chase every misunderstanding. They've learned that silence is sometimes the loudest form of strength. Amir began meditating, walking alone, reflecting, not because he was lonely, but because he was learning to enjoy his own company. He stopped explaining his decisions. He stopped proving his worth. He stopped reacting to things that didn't align with his purpose. And for the first time in years, he felt light. No need to control, no need to convince, no need to impress. That's when peace becomes power, when you no longer seek permission to be calm. High-value men protect their peace the way a king protects his crown, because peace can't coexist with chaos, and not everyone deserves access to your serenity. Marcus Aurelius once said, "He who lives in harmony with himself lives in harmony with the universe." That's the Stoic secret. When you master your inner world, the outer world can't shake you. So, if you've been overthinking, replaying old memories, or trying to fix people who broke your peace, stop. You don't owe anyone your calm. You don't need to explain your silence. You just need to choose yourself again. Because peace isn't found when life becomes easy. It's found when your heart becomes untouchable. And once a man reaches that level, when no woman, no situation, no noise can disturb his peace, he's no longer just high value, he's untouchable. Closing reflection. Why? Because they understand that power isn't in what you reveal, it's in what you protect. The modern world teaches men to overshare, to prove, to constantly seek validation. But a Stoic man, a truly valuable man, knows that his worth is not in his words, but in his actions, consistency and calmness. There's something magnetic about a man who doesn't need to explain himself. He just lives with purpose. He walks into a room quietly, but leaves a mark that no one forgets. And maybe that's the secret every man needs to learn. Not to chase validation, but to build such self-respect that silence becomes your loudest statement. Because when you protect your energy, your emotions, and your peace, you don't just attract women, you attract respect. And that's the kind of attraction that lasts. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.